Week 4 of the Canadian Football League gets underway tonight. Nathan Rourke taking his show on the road for the first time as the 2-0 Lions face the 0-2 Red Blacks, and there is no better way to kick off the start of Week 4 than with Justin Dunk. Well, maybe drinks, but that'll have to wait. So I present Dink and Dunk with
Yes, sir. Yeah, I like it.
Justin Dunk, you good?
Of course, man. You, Timmy?
Awesome. I'm very good. So you and I talked about Nathan Rourke before Week 1. We talked about him after Week 1. Then we talked about him after the BC Lions' second game in Week 3. But it's not just Canadians that are talking about Nathan Rourke. Is the NFL also maybe listening to what's going on here?
Yeah, they're tuning in. They're up in their seat, checking out what Rourke is doing because of what he did at Ohio University. And it's rare, even for an American quarterback in the CFL, Timmy, to come out and have a hot start in your first full-time season as a starter.
Right.
So NFL people are intrigued. I believe if this continues to go along the way it is, which is crazy numbers, but even if he dips a little bit, that there will be NFL teams calling after the season. But it's a long season, right? Still 16 weeks to go.
Right.
Tough test tonight in Ottawa, but NFL people are alerted to what Rourke has done over the first couple of weeks.
Okay, so 87% of his passes, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. He can also run the rock. What's been the key to his jaw-dropping success thus far?
To me, it's the work that he's put in behind the scenes. He's essentially living at the facility there, dicing up all the film, and he's getting rid of the ball very quickly out of his hands, making smart decisions, obviously with a high completion rate. But to me, that's what stands out the most, is that he's dissected defenses and knows where to go with the football in an instant. And he's not just looking at one receiver and then running, which a lot of dual-threat quarterbacks generally do. They look at one guy and they're out of the pocket because they feel like it's going to break down. But Rourke knows where to go very quickly and gets the ball out of his hands in rhythm.
All right, we have to shout out James Butler too, right?
Yeah, he's been great.
He's been really. I feel like every time I big up Nathan Rourke and I leave James Butler out, that I'm not doing my due diligence. Because he's been really good.
And the other guy that should get some props is Jordan McSimic, the only Canadian offensive coordinator in the league, dialing it up for Rourke.
All right, so it's not just Rourke, though. Before the season, we talked about Trey Ford getting some NFL love, too. It didn't work out. He getting his shot in Edmonton now?
Well, until Trey Ford walks out of the tunnel at Tim Hortons Field, just because it's Chris Jones, I'm not going to believe he's starting, okay? Chris Jones likes to play mind games, but he is listed as the #1 guy on the depth chart Friday night when they go into Hamilton. And to be quite honest to me, I don't like this move. I wish they would wait a little longer, let him sit and learn, just like Rourke did last year with Michael Riley. And part of that has to do with Edmonton not being that great of a football team.
Right.
I'm hyped to see him play. I think he can make a difference, but you want a better complete team around and put him in a winning situation like the Lions have done with Rourke.
I mean, you and I have talked about this in the NFL on our long rides to go do OUA games together, but you name through the great quarterbacks of all time. Joe Montana had to sit and wait. Tom Brady had to sit and wait. Patrick Mahomes had to sit and wait. Quarterbacks sitting and waiting, there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. And I kind of sort of agree. Now, if he goes and Edmonton beats Hamilton and the Ticats fall to 0-4, what's going on in Steeltown?
It's going to get hot real quick, and not just to heat up the metal there.
Right.
They're going to have the pressure turned up on Orlando Steinauer, and in my mind, more so Dane Evans. Because of the turnovers, man, we've been harping it on the show the few weeks to open the season, Timmy. He's got to take care of the ruck. That's a critical element. The offensive line needs to play better, but it always stops at the quarterback. And then the next guy it stops at is Steinauer. They elevated him to the president of football operations. He makes the final decisions, whether he wants to admit it publicly or not, and he chose to go with Dane Evans over Jeremiah Masoli, who, oh, by the way, looks pretty good in Ottawa, my man.
Still 0-2, though.
Yes, he's 0-2, but
he's got
play the defending Grey Cup.
Yeah, I know. There's some good numbers there. This is I used to host the 5th quarter on CHML in Hamilton.
Throwing it back, man.
And let me tell you something. If they had gone to 0-4 when I was there with this team, that would have been a spicy show.
Woo, my goodness. You would have had your callers calling in, wanting to fire everybody, get a new quarterback in there. I know what it's like in Steeltown.
Oh, my God. Yeah, you do. You work for CHCH. You know what it is. All right, so Riders and Owls seems like a grudge match in Week 4 already. Is that true?
It definitely is, man, especially when you got Cody Fajardo talking about wearing a brace on his knee. And that was the only reason he played in the front end of the home and home. But then now he feels like it's a target. He didn't come out and say it exactly, but you got the sense that Fajardo felt like the Owls were targeting that knee because of the brace. Now, he hasn't come out and said exactly how bad that knee is, but Fajardo clearly feels like he might have been in a little bit of danger, took some cheap shots, especially under the pile was what he referenced.
Right, so he's alerting the referees to make sure that there's something, if there's something going on this game, that they're wary of that. Is Duke Williams part of this too?
He definitely is, although he had over 100 yards and a touchdown in Montreal, but he said he played bad. Duke Williams is a dude that went to the NFL a little bit with the Buffalo Bills. Before that, led the CFL in receiving yards, tied for the league lead also in touchdowns that year, a few years back with 11. So he wants to put on a show here against especially Najee Murray because he feels like Murray might have got the best of him, and that's why Williams felt like he didn't play as great of a game. And Williams even referenced that, hey, I should play better because I get paid way more than him. Duke Williams makes $260,000, Murray makes $90,000, so he's probably right about that.
Wait a second, that's also receiver versus DB money in the CFL, is it not?
Yeah,
not a lot of DBs get a lot of coin in the CFL.
If you're an elite DB, you can get up there.
You can get up there. All right, let's switch gears. Andrew Harris, speaking of revenge, speaking of grudge matches, feels like there's a bit of a one brewing here.
Oh, there definitely is, man. He said it from the jump. The second he signed with Toronto in the offseason, Timmy, he's like, I want to show Winnipeg what they're missing. And if you look at the Blue Bombers' run game to start the season, it hasn't been as great as it was when Harris was there for all those years behind that dominant offensive line. But now he's got to do it with Toronto, who's coming off getting absolutely lit up by the Lions in BC. Now, fortunately for Toronto, they're not going against Nathan Rourke, the guy that's pretty much a superhero now, but Harris looks like he could be dynamic in this offense. Had over 100 yards from scrimmage in week 1 against the Alouettes, as you can see there. So I think he's going to be a guy that's running extra hard against Winnipeg.
I mean, listen, when we're in week 4 and teams have only played 2 or 3 games, sometimes you're judging from very small sample sizes. But that 44-3 final at BC Place in Vancouver was shocking to me. Like, I didn't see that from week 1. Does it speak more to where the Argos are? Does it speak more to where the BC Lions are? Like, I know we're kind of pulling at straws here, but I'm trying to figure out what that meant. Was it just I mean, I know they have tough travel in the CFL sometimes, getting out west or coming east. What do you say about that 44-3 final?
You know, a little bit of the travel. The Argos have struggled out in BC for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But to me, it was more about the BC Lions really rolling. Yeah. But it does present question marks for the Argos because they had a team that had been together with Ryan Dinwiddie last year, won the East Division in the regular season, and added some veteran pieces. Andrew Harris was one of them, Brandon Banks, Jaguar Davis on defense. So you felt like they would start fast because they had that continuity, especially between Dinwiddie, who calls the plays on offense, and McLeod Bethel-Thompson, the quarterback. They got to get some stuff figured out there, especially on defense.
My first ever game for the Hamilton Tiger Cats as the play-by-play guy was in BC in week 1. They hadn't won there on the road in like decades. I had a lot of hair the last time that they won in BC. And Demetrius Breedlove had himself a game.
What a pull.
And the Hamilton Tiger Cats won Greg Marshall's debut as the head coach of the Hamilton Tiger Cats in BC. But that does not happen often.
No,
that's why
rare.
the 44-3 was a bit of a shock, but not too much of a shock. What's the game of the week in your mind?
Ooh.
What's
That's
the one?
tough, man.
If you're just the outside looking in, Lions, Red Blacks, Elks, Ticats, Alouettes, Riders, Bombers, Argos, what's the one you got to tune into?
It's got to be Bombers Argos, for sure. Just because of Andrew Harris and the revenge. And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have also struggled a little bit in Toronto. Their only real loss last season when they were going at full throttle was at BMO Field.
Right.
So something they got to rectify there. Zach Claros lives in the area too, so he wants to play well in front of his family and friends.
I guess they should have taken out the Ophir Bowl between the Elks and the
I was debating.
But you know what?
It's still intriguing.
Jay Ward, if they fall to 0-4, maybe. Justin Dunk, always appreciate you dropping in here.
Appreciate you, man.
Week 4 in the CFL. That means a little dink and dunk. Sorry, just dink and dunk.